Welcome. You have arrived at Sleep Science Fact. If today felt long, heavy, or louder than you wanted, you don't need to carry any of that with you right now. This moment is different. This moment is slower. Here, there is nothing you need to achieve, nothing you need to remember, nothing you need to solve. You are simply allowed to rest. Tonight, we are not entering a world of cold or emptiness. We are entering a quieter version of the earth, a place where movement still exists, but it happens gently, where time stretches, where change unfolds without urgency. Ice and snow are often imagined as lifeless, as still, as silent. But in reality, ice and snow are not the absence of life. They are a slower expression of it. They are the earth breathing more softly. Beneath ice, water continues to move. Beneath snow, the ground remains warm enough to protect roots, insects, and sleeping seeds. Within frozen landscapes, time does not stop. It simply flows differently. Ice remembers. Snow listens. Every layer of ice carries the imprint of seasons that passed quietly. Every snowfall reshapes the world without force. No sudden noise, no sharp edges, just gentle accumulation. As you listen, you may notice your breathing begin to slow. You don't need to control it. Just notice it. Inhale, exhale. The world of ice and snow does not rush, and neither do you. Far from cities, far from screens, far from schedules, frozen landscapes stretch beneath dim skies. Light there is softer. Sound travels differently. Even silence has texture. Snow absorbs noise. Ice bends light. Footsteps disappear almost as soon as they are made. Wind becomes a low, distant whisper instead of a sharp voice. In these places, nothing demands attention. Nothing competes. Everything simply exists. Ice forms not with urgency, but with patience. One molecule at a time, one quiet adjustment after another. Snowflakes do not fall to impress. They fall because conditions are right, because temperature, humidity, and stillness have aligned. They arrive without announcement, and when they settle, the world feels held. Tonight, you are not here to learn facts quickly. You are here to let knowledge move slowly, to let curiosity replace worry, to let scale and time soften the sharp edges of thought. Ice and snow connect the sky, the land, and the sea. Clouds release crystals shaped by invisible forces. Mountains store frozen water for distant summers. Oceans receive meltwater that once fell as quiet snow. Nothing is isolated. Nothing is wasted. Even the cold has a purpose. As glaciers move, almost imperceptibly, they reshape continents without violence. As snow blankets the ground, it insulates life, rather than threatening it. As ice floats on water, it protects what lives below. Slowness becomes protection, and that same slowness is available to you now. You don't need to keep pace with the world outside. You don't need to replay conversations. You don't need to plan tomorrow. Like ice forming on a still lake, your thoughts can begin to settle from the surface downward. The top layer quiets first. Then the deeper currents soften. There is no rush. Here, even time feels less demanding. Imagine standing in a vast, snowy landscape beneath a dim, overcast sky. There is no glare, no harsh contrast. The light is even, gentle. Your body feels warmer than the air around you, wrapped, protected, held. Each breath forms a faint cloud, then disappears. The ground does not ask you to move faster. The horizon does not pressure you to arrive. Everything invites stillness. Ice and snow teach us something simple and reassuring. That slowing down is not failure. That quiet does not mean emptiness. That rest is not something to earn. It is something to return to. As this journey continues, we will explore how frozen worlds store memory, how they protect life, how they move without noise, how they connect distant parts of the planet through patient cycles. But for now, you don't need to follow closely. You can let the words pass like falling snow. Some will land, some will melt away. Both are fine. If your eyelids feel heavy, let them be heavy. If your thoughts drift, let them drift. The Earth has been shaping ice and snow for millions of years. It knows how to do this without effort, and tonight, you can borrow that wisdom. May this space bring you calm. May your body feel safe enough to rest. May your mind loosen its grip on the day. You are welcome here. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. And as the quiet world of ice and snow slowly unfolds, you are free to soften, to slow, and to gently drift towards sleep. As we continue from the quiet world of ice and snow, we move gently closer to the surface of still water. Not to disturb it, only to observe. Here, ice does something quietly extraordinary. It floats. This simple fact may seem small, but it changes the fate of entire lakes, rivers, and oceans. Ice is lighter than liquid water because of the way water molecules arrange themselves as they freeze. Solid ice expands just enough to become less dense. And so, instead of sinking, it rises. This gentle rise creates a thin, floating layer between the cold air above and the living water below. A natural blanket. When a lake begins to freeze, it does not harden all at once. It does not rush. The surface cools first. A fragile skin forms, and beneath it, water remains liquid, calm, and protected. Fish continue to swim slowly. Plants remain anchored in the quiet darkness. Microorganisms drift without urgency. Life does not panic. It waits. Ice becomes a shield rather than a threat. If ice were heavier than water, it would sink to the bottom. Lakes would freeze from below upward. Winter after winter, cold would accumulate. Most freshwater life would not survive. But the Earth chose a different structure. Floating ice seals warmth in. It keeps deeper water close to 4 degrees Celsius, the temperature at which water is densest and most stable. Even in the harshest winters, life continues in slow motion beneath the frozen surface. There is something deeply reassuring about this. Protection does not require effort. It emerges naturally from balance. Under ice, the world becomes quieter. Sound travels differently. Sharp noises from above are softened, scattered, absorbed. The ice dulls sudden disturbances, turning chaos into distant vibration. Light changes too. Instead of direct brightness, it filters through ice in pale blues and silvers. Soft gradients replace contrast. Shadows blur. Edges fade. Below the ice, nothing needs to react quickly. This is a place where stillness is safe. Imagine floating gently beneath a frozen lake, not cold, not afraid, but suspended in a protected space. Above you, ice holds the world still. Below you, water cradles movement. You are between layers of calm. This is what ice does for life, and this is what this moment can do for you. In daily life, stress often comes from exposure. Too much noise, too many demands, too much pressure pressing directly against the surface of thought. But beneath a protective layer, everything slows. Your nervous system responds to safety. Heart rate eases. Breathing becomes deeper without instruction, just like the water beneath ice. In the ocean, sea ice performs a similar role. It forms slowly from salty water, expelling salt as it freezes, creating pockets of dense, cold brine that sink gently downward. This process helps drive ocean circulation, moving nutrients and oxygen across vast distances. Even here, ice does not isolate. It connects. Above the ice, the air may feel harsh and unforgiving. Below it, Currents continue their patient paths. Tiny organisms live within the ice itself. Algae grow inside microscopic channels, tinted green and gold, feeding entire food webs when spring returns. Even in frozen places, nothing is wasted. Everything has time. Ice also quiets motion. Waves lose their energy beneath frozen surfaces. Storms pass without reaching deep water. The surface absorbs disturbance, protecting what lies below. This is not weakness, it is resilience through softness. And perhaps that is something you can carry with you tonight. You do not need to meet every pressure directly. You do not need to react to every noise. You are allowed to have a layer, a pause, a boundary that filters what reaches you. As you listen, you may feel as if your thoughts are floating slightly farther apart, not disappearing, just drifting. Like slow-moving fish beneath ice, they pass without urgency. Nothing chases them. Nothing demands resolution. Under ice, time feels wider. Minutes stretch. Moments soften. The world above can be loud, unpredictable, and sharp. But beneath the surface, there is continuity. This layered structure of ice and water mirrors something deeply human. We function best when protected enough to rest, when stimulation is filtered, when the environment signals safety rather than threat. Ice sends that signal to life beneath it. And now, through quiet words and steady rhythm, that signal is offered to you. You may notice your shoulders dropping slightly, your jaw unclenching, your thoughts losing their tight grip. You don't need to force any of this. Just allow it. Ice does not command water to be calm. It simply creates the conditions where calm can exist. As winter deepens, ice thickens slowly, millimeter by millimeter. No sudden leaps, and with each layer, the world below becomes more stable. In the darkest months, beneath meters of ice and snow, life waits with patience that spans seasons. It trusts the cycle, and so can you. You do not need to solve everything tonight. You do not need to carry tomorrow into this moment. Like the water beneath ice, you are allowed to remain gently awake or drift towards sleep without pressure. In the next parts of this journey, we will move deeper into frozen landscapes, into ancient ice, drifting glaciers, and slow-moving time. But for now, you can stay here, floating, protected, held between layers of quiet. If your eyes close, nothing is lost. The ice remains, the water remains, and rest, like life beneath the surface, continues naturally. As the quiet protection of floating ice remains behind us, we drift farther south, away from familiar shores, toward a continent made almost entirely of stillness. Antarctica, a place that does not rush, a place that does not speak loudly, a place where time itself seems to move more slowly. Here, ice is no longer a surface layer, it is the landscape. The Antarctic ice sheet is the largest single body of ice on Earth. It stretches for thousands of kilometers, rising in gentle domes and broad plateaus, thick enough to reshape the planet beneath it. The weight of this ice is immense, so immense that it presses the Earth's crust downward, slowly, steadily, like a hand resting gently, but persistently on soft clay. Over millions of years, the land beneath Antarctica has sunk under this frozen load, not violently, not suddenly, only through patience. This is how Antarctica teaches us about pressure, not the sharp kind that overwhelms, but the quiet kind that accumulates gradually, almost unnoticed. And yet, even under this pressure, nothing breaks. The planet adjusts. The ice above continues to exist, layer upon layer, each one a thin page in a very long story. Snow falls. It settles. It compresses. Air becomes trapped between crystals. Tiny bubbles form, holding ancient atmospheres inside them. Year by year, century by century, the snow becomes ice. Not frozen, in chaos, but arranged in order, deep within the Antarctic ice sheet. There are layers that formed hundreds of thousands of years ago. Some are over 1 million years old. They remember volcanic eruptions. They remember shifts in temperature. They remember the rhythm of ice ages coming and going. Antarctica does not forget, but it also does not demand attention. Its memories are stored quietly, waiting without urgency, like thoughts you do not need tonight. The ice here is not static, though it appears still from a distance. The Antarctic ice sheet flows, very slowly. Under its own weight, the ice deforms and moves outward, creeping toward the ocean like a frozen river. This movement is measured in centimeters, sometimes meters, per year. Too slow to see, too slow to feel, and yet it never stops. This slow flow reminds us that motion does not require speed. Change does not require noise. Even the most massive things on Earth can move gently. As the ice flows, it carries history with it. Dust from ancient deserts, ash from distant volcanoes, salt from long evaporated seas, all of it locked into place, traveling together toward the edges of the continent. At the coast, the ice finally meets the ocean. It spreads out, forming vast floating shelves, thick and calm, holding back glaciers behind them. These shelves are not fragile. They are patient extensions of the land, touching the sea without resistance. Above this frozen world, the air moves differently. Cold air becomes heavy. It sinks. From the high interior of Antarctica, dense air slowly slides downhill, following the gentle slope of the ice sheet. These are katabatic winds. They are not sudden storms. They are steady flows. They move day after day, night after night, guided by gravity and temperature alone. The wind does not decide where to go. It simply follows the path available to it. There is something deeply calming about this kind of movement. No conflict, no hesitation, just quiet direction. In daily life, we often feel pulled in many directions at once. Deadlines, responsibilities, expectations layered upon expectations. Antarctica offers a different model. Here, forces are simple. Weight moves ice. Cold moves air. Time shapes everything. Nothing competes, and nothing rushes. The silence of Antarctica is not empty. It is full of processes unfolding at their natural pace. The ice sheet breathes slowly with the seasons, expanding slightly in winter, softening imperceptibly in summer. Even the soundscape is muted. Snow absorbs noise. Ice dampens vibration. Wind becomes a low, continuous presence rather than a sharp interruption. If you were standing here, wrapped in warmth, you would notice how your thoughts slow on their own, not because you force them to, but because the environment allows it. Antarctica does not stimulate. It supports. It invites the mind to widen. In this vastness, individual worries lose their sharp edges. They become smaller, more distant, less urgent. Just like the air bubbles trapped deep in ice, your concerns can remain stored safely without needing attention right now. The ice has held onto its memories for hundreds of thousands of years. It does not require you to process everything tonight. You are allowed to rest. As the ice flows slowly toward the sea, it teaches another quiet lesson. Movement does not cancel stability. Antarctica has remained ice-covered for millions of years, even while its ice has never stopped moving. Stability comes from continuity, not rigidity. You can change slowly and still remain yourself. As you listen, your breathing may become deeper. Your thoughts may stretch out, with more space between them. This is not something you need to monitor. It happens naturally, like ice settling under its own weight. The deeper we go into this frozen archive, the more time seems to open up. Past and present coexist. Motion and stillness overlap. Nothing demands resolution. Antarctica continues to exist, layer by layer, moment by moment, without urgency. And for now, so can you. In the next part of this journey, we will move from vast ice sheets to the delicate symmetry of snowflakes, from immense pressure to intricate structure. But here, at the heart of the frozen continent, you can remain suspended in depth. Let the weight of the day settle. Let unnecessary thoughts sink gently downward. Like the land beneath Antarctica, you are supported, even under pressure. And like the ice above it, you are allowed to move slowly, quietly, toward rest. After the immense weight and quiet endurance of Antarctica, we move gently upward, from the deep archive of ice sheets to something far smaller, far lighter, and almost weightless in comparison. A snowflake. It begins not with cold alone, but with water vapor, invisible, drifting freely in the air. High above the ground, where temperatures are low and motion is slow, a tiny particle becomes a resting place. A speck of dust, a grain of pollen, a microscopic fragment carried by the wind. Around this center, water vapor gathers, not all at once, not quickly. Molecule by molecule, it attaches, releases energy, and rearranges itself into ice. This is where symmetry begins. Ice prefers order. As water freezes, its molecules lock into a hexagonal pattern, a six-sided structure that repeats itself naturally. This shape is not chosen, it is followed. Each arm of a snowflake grows from the same conditions, the same temperature, the same humidity, the same gentle currents of air. Because they experience the same journey, they grow in the same way. This is why snowflakes are symmetrical, not because they are designed to be perfect, but because they are shaped together. As a snowflake falls, it passes through layers of air, each with slightly different temperatures and moisture levels. Growth speeds up, growth slows down, edges branch, tips divide. Every tiny change in the environment leaves a mark. And yet, because each arm experiences these changes at nearly the same time, the symmetry remains. Complex, delicate, balanced. No two snowflakes are identical. This is not because the process is chaotic, but because the journey is unique. Even a fraction of a degree difference, a slight shift in airflow, a momentary pause, is enough to create variation. Uniqueness does not require effort. It happens naturally, when conditions are allowed to unfold without force. Snowflakes do not hurry. They form slowly, sometimes over many minutes, sometimes longer, depending on the air they travel through. They are shaped by patience, and yet, when they reach the ground, they may last only moments. A breath of warmer air, a touch, a ray of light. They melt. The time it takes to disappear is far shorter than the time it took to form. This contrast is quiet and deeply calming. It reminds us that value is not measured by duration. Something can take a long time to become what it is, and still be allowed to fade quickly. Snowflakes do not resist melting. They do not cling to their shape. They return to water, to vapor, to movement. In this way, they teach us about impermanence, without urgency, without loss, only transition. As snow falls, it carries sound differently. Fresh snow absorbs noise. Air pockets between flakes trap vibrations. Footsteps soften. Distant sounds fade. The world becomes quieter, not because sound disappears, but because it is gently held. This muffled silence is familiar to the body. Heart rate slows. Muscles release tension. The nervous system recognizes this environment as safe. Nothing sharp, nothing sudden, just falling, layer upon layer. Each snowflake lands lightly, adding almost nothing on its own, yet together they reshape the landscape. Edges blur, hard lines soften. The ground becomes smooth, continuous, forgiving. In daily life, we often try to change everything at once. We expect large efforts to produce immediate results. Snow works differently. One flake does very little. Another adds almost nothing. But over time, the accumulation becomes meaningful. Gentle change, repeated without pressure, is enough. Snowflakes never ask how much they matter individually. They simply fall. This absence of self-evaluation is part of their calm. As you listen, you may notice your thoughts becoming lighter, less structured, more spaced out. This is not distraction, it is release. Just as snowflakes do not carry the weight of Antarctica, you do not need to carry everything tonight. Heavy thoughts can rest. Important decisions can wait. There will be time for them later. Snowflakes fall through darkness as easily as daylight. They do not require visibility. They do not need to be seen. Most snowflakes melt unnoticed, and that is enough. Their purpose is not recognition. It is participation in a larger cycle, from cloud to ground, from ice to water, from stillness to motion. Nothing is wasted. Even after melting, the water continues. It flows into soil, into streams, into rivers. It may freeze again, or evaporate, or become part of a cloud once more. Snowflakes are temporary expressions of a continuous system. This perspective softens urgency. You do not need to finish everything. You only need to be part of the moment you are in. As snow continues to fall, the air itself seems to slow. Movement becomes gentle. Time stretches. This is why snowfall often feels hypnotic. The repetitive motion, the downward drift, the quiet consistency, all signal the brain to rest. There is no pattern you must follow, no outcome you must reach, just falling, breathing, listening. The symmetry of snowflakes is precise, but not rigid. Branches curve, edges vary. Order exists alongside softness. This balance is rare in daily life, but natural in the physical world. You are allowed to be structured and relaxed at the same time, focused yet drifting. As this part of the journey continues, you may find your awareness widening, then gently narrowing, like attention settling into a comfortable position. Snowflakes continue to fall, even when you stop watching them. They do not require supervision, and neither does your breathing. It will continue on its own, slowly, quietly, reliably. In the next part, we will explore how ice can form, even under clear skies, as tiny crystals called diamond dust. But here, with snowflakes drifting through silence, you can remain still. Let thoughts dissolve. As easily as ice melting into water, nothing needs to be held tightly. Like snow, you are allowed to rest, in gentle symmetry, falling softly, into sleep. After the soft symmetry of snowflakes drifting downward, after the quiet weightlessness of ice forming and melting without urgency, we arrive at something even more subtle, something that does not announce itself, something that appears without clouds, without storms, without sound. Diamond dust. In some of the coldest places on Earth, snow does not always fall from the sky the way we imagine. There are mornings when the air is completely clear. No clouds, no wind. The sky stretches open and pale, almost empty. And yet, tiny crystals begin to shimmer. They do not fall from above. They seem to appear within the air itself. Diamond dust forms when water vapor freezes directly into ice crystals, without ever becoming liquid and without gathering into clouds. This process is called deposition. It requires only three things: air that is cold enough, air that is calm enough, and time. No drama, no pressure, just stillness. The temperature often drops far below freezing. The air becomes dry and dense. Movement slows. In this quiet, individual water molecules lose energy. They drift closer together, and suddenly they lock into place. A crystal is born. Each one is incredibly small, often too small to see clearly unless the light catches it just right. When sunlight appears, Low on the horizon, these crystals scatter light. They sparkle. They glimmer. Not brightly, not sharply, softly. The effect is gentle, like light being breathed into the air. This is why it is called diamond dust. Not because it shines intensely, but because it reflects with restraint. The sparkle never overwhelms the eye. It remains calm. Diamond dust does not fall quickly. There is almost no gravity to its movement. Crystals hover. They drift sideways. They linger. Sometimes they appear suspended, as if time itself has slowed enough to hold them in place. This creates a rare sensory experience. Your eyes see motion, but your body feels stillness. The brain responds by reducing alertness. There is nothing to track, nothing to predict, only gentle presence. Unlike snowflakes, which form high above and travel long distances, diamond dust forms right where it appears. The air around you becomes the birthplace. This closeness makes the phenomenon feel intimate, not distant, not unreachable. The atmosphere itself participates. Sound behaves differently in these conditions. Cold, dense air carries sound farther, yet diamond dust often appears when everything feels quiet. This is because there is very little movement, no rising air, no falling pressure, just stability. The absence of turbulence creates a sense of safety. Nothing is about to change suddenly. For the nervous system, this predictability is soothing. Your body does not prepare for action. It prepares for rest. Diamond dust often appears in polar regions, high latitudes, and cold valleys where air settles overnight. But it can appear anywhere. The conditions are right. It is not rare because it is fragile. It is rare because it requires patience. The environment must allow things to happen slowly. This mirrors something deeply human. Many forms of clarity do not come from effort. They come from stillness. When the mind becomes quiet enough, thoughts arrange themselves. No forcing, no chasing, just enough calm for patterns to appear. Diamond dust does not need clouds to organize water vapor. It trusts the air. In the same way, your mind does not always need structure to rest. Sometimes it needs space. The sparkle of diamond dust is subtle because the crystals are simple. They are often hexagonal plates or columns, small and clean, without elaborate branching. This simplicity reflects light evenly. There is no sharp glare. The brightness is diffused, spread gently across the sky. This soft light reduces contrast. Edges blur, colors fade. Vision becomes less demanding. Your eyes relax. This is why bright snowfields under diamond dust often feel peaceful rather than harsh, especially when the sun is low. The light arrives sideways, filtered through ice. Nothing presses forward. Diamond dust also interacts with halos. Sometimes rings appear around the sun or moon, formed by light bending through these tiny crystals. Perfect circles, calm geometry. They do not move quickly. They do not demand attention. They simply exist. Circles are among the most calming shapes for the human brain. They have no beginning and no end. This completeness signals safety. When combined with stillness, it invites deep relaxation. In everyday life, we often feel pressure to perform, to react, to keep up. Diamond dust exists without purpose. It does not protect life beneath ice. It does not reshape landscapes. It simply forms, sparkles briefly, and fades. And yet, it is one of the most beautiful expressions of the cold atmosphere. This teaches a quiet lesson. Not everything needs to be useful, to be meaningful. Some things exist only to be experienced. As you listen, you may notice your breathing becoming slower, not because you are trying to control it, but because your body is responding to calm imagery. There is no rush here. Diamond dust does not hurry to the ground. Sometimes it remains suspended for hours, slowly settling as temperatures change. When the sun rises higher, or the air warms slightly, the crystals disappear. They sublimate. Solid ice becomes vapor again, without ever melting. Another gentle transition. No resistance, just a shift in state. This is a recurring theme in ice and snow. Change without struggle. When stress builds in daily life, it often comes from resistance, from trying to hold on to a state that is already changing. Diamond dust does not resist warmth. It dissolves quietly. This does not mean it failed. It completed its role. For a brief moment, the air held light differently, and that was enough. As this idea settles, you may feel permission to let go of unfinished thoughts. They do not need resolution tonight. Like water vapor, they can drift. They can return later, in another form, at another time. The stillness of diamond dust is deep. There is no downward pull strong enough to hurry the process. This can feel unfamiliar in a world that values speed, but your body recognizes it as natural. Slow is not wrong. Slow is stable. Slow allows systems to regulate themselves. This is why environments like this are often described as timeless. Minutes stretch, hours soften. Awareness becomes diffuse. You may feel less defined, less sharp at the edges. This is not losing focus. It is transitioning into rest. Diamond dust rarely leaves traces. Once it disappears, there are no footprints, no accumulation, only memory. This lack of residue is calming. Nothing to clean up, nothing to manage. Just presence, then absence. In sleep, the mind works similarly. Thoughts arise. Thoughts dissolve. No effort required. As this segment comes to a close, the image of sparkling air may begin to fade. That is okay. You do not need to hold it. The next part will explore how ice can shape the ground itself, lifting soil slowly, creating patterns over many seasons. But here, with diamond dust drifting in silence, you can rest. Let your awareness become light, like vapor in cold air. Let it crystallize briefly, then soften again. Nothing is demanded of you. The sky is clear. The air is still. And in this quiet brilliance, sleep can arrive naturally, without being summoned. After the air itself learned how to sparkle, after diamond dust appeared and faded without leaving a trace, we now move lower, not downward quickly, but gradually, from the open sky to the quiet surface of the earth. Here, nothing shines, nothing drifts. Instead, everything repeats, very slowly. Ice lenses are not dramatic. They do not crack the ground suddenly. They do not announce their presence. They form beneath the surface, out of sight, out of urgency. An ice lens begins with something simple: water. In cold regions, as temperatures drop below freezing, the surface soil begins to cool first. The cold moves downward, layer by layer. Below this freezing front, liquid water still exists. It moves, but not because it is pushed. It moves because of temperature. Water is drawn toward colder zones, pulled gently upward through tiny spaces between soil particles. This movement is slow, so slow that it feels more like waiting than traveling. When the water reaches the freezing boundary, it turns into ice, not all at once. One thin layer, then another. Each layer is called an ice lens. These lenses stack quietly, flat and smooth, like pages in a book no one is reading. As each lens forms, it expands slightly. Ice takes up more space than liquid water. This expansion lifts the soil above it, not abruptly, by millimeters, sometimes less. Then the process repeats. More water moves upward. Another thin lens freezes. The ground rises again, over days, over weeks, over seasons. The land slowly breathes upward. This is called frost heave, but there is no forceful heaving here, only patient change. In tundra regions, where this cycle happens year after year, the surface of the earth develops patterns. Circles, polygons, stripes. They are not carved. They emerge. These shapes are not planned. They are not guided by intention. They result from repetition. When conditions repeat, patterns appear. This is true in landscapes and in the mind. Ice lenses show us how structure can arise. Without effort, no single lens decides to shape the ground. Each one simply responds to temperature and time. Together, they transform the surface. The soil particles respond differently. Heavier stones move aside. Finer material rises. The earth organizes itself according to weight, density, and patience. This organization is silent. If you stood above an ice lens forming, you would hear nothing. No cracking, no shifting. The movement is too slow for sound. This silence has a powerful effect on the nervous system. There is no stimulus to react to. The body does not tense. Instead, it releases. The mind often associates change with threat, because change is usually fast. Ice lenses teach a different lesson. Change can be gentle. Change can be predictable. Change can be almost imperceptible. As you listen, your breath may begin to align with this rhythm. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause again. Nothing rushed. Ice lenses do not form continuously. They form, then wait. They respond to cycles of freezing and thawing. At night, the ground cools. During the day, it may warm slightly. Each cycle reinforces the structure. This repetition is soothing because it mirrors biological rhythms. Heartbeat, breathing, sleep cycles. Regularity signals safety. The earth beneath frozen regions is not dead. It is active in a quiet way. Microorganisms slow their metabolism. Roots pause their growth. Life adapts to the rhythm. Nothing fights the cold. Everything adjusts. Ice lenses can lift entire sections of ground by several centimeters over time, and yet there is no damage. When thawing finally comes, the ice melts. The water drains away. The ground settles back down. Another gentle transition. No collapse, just return. This rise and fall creates a sense of reversibility. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is lost. This is deeply comforting to a mind holding stress. Problems feel heavy when they seem fixed. Ice lenses remind us that even solid ground can move, and then move back. The patterns left behind remain visible for long periods. They are records of patience, evidence that time alone can shape complexity. In aerial images of tundra, these patterns look almost designed, but they are simply the result of water responding to cold over and over again. There is no hurry in the frozen earth. When you imagine this process, you may feel your thoughts slowing. There is nothing to solve here, only observation. Ice lenses do not grow larger by pushing harder. They grow by repeating conditions. This is important. Rest does not come from effort. It comes from consistency, regular sleep, regular darkness, regular quiet. The brain, like soil, organizes itself when conditions are stable. As this segment continues, there is no climax waiting ahead, only continuation. Water moving, freezing, lifting, again, again, again. The predictability is the comfort. You do not need to anticipate anything new. Your attention can soften. You can let the imagery blur. You may no longer see clear shapes. That is okay. Sleep often begins when details fade. Ice lenses form best when the surface remains undisturbed. Footsteps, machinery, vibration can disrupt the process. Stillness allows structure. This is also true for rest. Disruption delays sleep. Stillness invites it. As we prepare to move forward, the next section will explore how glaciers carry stones across vast distances, transporting memory from one place to another. But for now, you can remain here with the slow breathing earth. Imagine the ground rising, the thickness of a breath, then resting, then rising again. Nothing to watch, nothing to hold, just the reassurance that even beneath frozen surfaces, movement can be calm, reversible, and kind. Let that steadiness settle into you. Like soil accepting ice, you do not need to resist rest. You only need to allow the temperature to change. Beneath the slow breathing of frozen ground, beyond the gentle rise and fall shaped by ice lenses, there is another kind of movement. It is larger, heavier, and somehow even quieter. Glaciers do not rush. They do not slide suddenly across the land. At first glance, they appear still, like mountains made of ice. But glaciers are not frozen in place. They are travelers. They move so slowly that the human mind cannot register the motion in real time. A glacier may advance only a few centimeters in a day, sometimes less. This is slower than the growth of a fingernail, slower than the turning of an hour hand on a clock. And yet, over years, over centuries, over thousands of years, that movement becomes vast. Glaciers form when snowfall exceeds melting. Layer after layer of snow settles. Each layer presses down on the one below it. Air is slowly squeezed out. Snow becomes firm. Fern becomes ice. Dense, heavy. Under its own weight, the ice begins to deform. Not crack, not break. It flows. Ice, under enough pressure, behaves like a very thick liquid. This flow is what carries glaciers forward. As the glacier moves, it does not travel alone. It carries pieces of the landscape with it. Stones, pebbles, sand, sometimes boulders the size of small rooms. These rocks fall onto the glacier from surrounding mountains. Others are plucked directly from the ground beneath. The ice grips them gently, but firmly. Once embedded, they begin a journey. Without awareness, without destination, a rock may travel dozens, even hundreds of kilometers, without ever making a sound. No vibration, no friction you could hear. The movement is too slow to create noise. This silence is important. The nervous system associates loud movement with danger. Glacial motion offers the opposite message. Change can occur without disturbance, without urgency. As the glacier slides, it reshapes the land beneath it. Valleys become smoother, sharp edges are softened. The rock fragments held in the ice act like very slow sandpaper, grinding, polishing over immense spans of time. This erosion is not violent. It is patient. The glacier never needs to decide where to go. Gravity does that work. The ice follows the shape of the land, descending gently from high elevations toward lower ground. There is no resistance, only guidance. Eventually, the climate changes. Temperatures rise slightly. The glacier begins to melt. As it retreats, it releases the stones it carried. These rocks remain far from their original homes. They are called erratics. Erratic boulders often sit alone in fields, on hillsides, or in valleys where they do not match the local geology. They look misplaced, but they are not lost. They are evidence, proof of journeys so slow that no one witnessed them. This idea can be deeply calming. Not all movement needs to be observed to be meaningful. Not all progress announces itself. Some changes unfold beneath awareness, only becoming visible long after they begin. In life, stress often comes from watching the clock, from measuring progress too closely. Glaciers remind us that distance can be covered without watching every step. The stones carried by glaciers experience no acceleration, no deceleration, only continuity. Their journey is not tiring because there is no effort involved. They simply remain held, supported. This image can be helpful for a mind that feels overworked. You do not always need to push yourself forward. Sometimes, being carried by steady conditions is enough. Glacial ice is rarely smooth on the surface. It creaks internally, but even those sounds are muted deep within the ice. At the surface, the environment feels still. Wind moves lightly. Snow falls softly. Time stretches. If you were to stand beside a glacier, you would likely feel a sense of scale. Not smallness, in a threatening way, but perspective. Your problems would not disappear, but they might loosen their grip. The glacier does not hurry to resolve anything. It simply continues. Glaciers also store memory. The stones they carry come from many different places. They are mixed together, transported, and then released elsewhere. Landscapes are connected by this slow exchange. Nothing remains isolated forever. Even solid rock travels. As this thought settles, your breathing may deepen. There is no need to stay alert here. Nothing sudden will happen. The glacier will not surprise you. It will continue at the same pace, long after attention drifts. This constancy is reassuring. It tells the brain that it is safe to rest. You do not need to track motion. That's slow. You can let it continue without supervision. In the next section, we will explore sounds created by ice itself, the rare and distant cracking known as icequakes. But for now, you can remain with the image of stones being carried, held in cold clarity, moving across the earth, without effort, without sound. Let that quiet journey replace any urgency you were holding. You are allowed to move slowly too. After the long, silent journeys of glaciers, after stones have been carried without effort, across vast distances, the frozen landscape sometimes does something else. It lets go. Not suddenly, not violently, but quietly. In regions of extreme cold, ice and frozen ground are constantly adjusting. Day and night bring subtle changes in temperature. Even a few degrees are enough to matter. When ice cools, it contracts. When it warms slightly, it expands. This movement is small, almost imperceptible, but over large surfaces, pressure can build. Ice does not store tension forever. Eventually, it releases it. This release is known as an icequake. Icequakes are not earthquakes. They do not come from deep within the earth. They are surface events happening close to where ice meets air, or where frozen soil meets colder layers above. The sound they create is brief, a low crack, a distant boom, sometimes a sharp snap, like wood gently breaking in a fireplace far away. In the deep quiet of polar nights, these sounds can feel amplified, not because they are loud, but because nothing else is happening. The silence makes room for them. This is important to understand. Icequakes are not signs of danger. They do not signal collapse. They are not warnings. They are adjustments. The frozen world realigning itself with changing conditions. In this way, icequakes are a form of release. Built-up stress, quietly discharged. The human body does something similar. Muscles tighten throughout the day. Jaw, shoulders, back, often without awareness. At rest, the body releases that tension. A sigh, a stretch, a shift in position. Icequakes are the landscape's version of a sigh. Short, necessary, relieving. For someone listening at night, the idea of a sudden sound might seem alarming, but when framed correctly, the brain understands something else is happening. This sound is not intrusion, it is completion, stress leaving the system. In many cold regions, people learn to recognize icequakes. They do not rush outside. They do not panic. They continue what they were doing, sometimes barely noticing at all. Familiarity removes fear. The sound becomes part of the environment, like wind through trees or distant thunder beyond the horizon. Glaciers themselves can produce icequakes. As they slowly move, internal stresses form within the ice. When released, They create faint echoes that travel through the frozen mass. These sounds may never reach the surface. Most icequakes go unheard by human ears. They pass through ice, through ground, through layers of snow, and fade away, unrecorded, unnoticed, yet still essential. This idea can be deeply reassuring. Not every release needs to be observed. To be effective, you do not need to pay attention to every moment of relaxation for it to work. Sometimes, rest happens quietly in the background. As you listen, your own nervous system may recognize this pattern. You may notice a gentle drop in alertness, breathing slows, thoughts stretch out, leaving more space between them. Nothing is being demanded of you. Icequakes do not ask to be interpreted. They do not require action. They simply occur, and then they are gone. This is the opposite of urgency. Modern life trains the brain to respond instantly. Notifications, deadlines, expectations. Icequakes offer another model. Respond by doing nothing. Let the system reset itself. In the frozen night, after the sound fades, the silence feels even deeper than before. Not empty, but settled, as if something unfinished has just been completed. You may imagine the ice returning to stillness, the ground lying flat again, pressure redistributed evenly, balanced. There is nothing left to hold. This mental image can be carried inward. You do not need to solve everything before resting. Some adjustments happen naturally. When you stop pushing, your mind, like ice, knows how to release stress. When conditions are calm enough, you do not need to supervise that process. You can let it happen. In the next section, we will explore how light behaves in frozen environments, how ice reflects and softens illumination during long polar nights. But for now, you can remain here with the idea of quiet release, a brief sound, a return to silence. Nothing broken, only balance restored. After the quiet release of icequakes, after the frozen world has adjusted and settled, there is another layer beneath everything, a deeper stillness. Permafrost. Permafrost is ground that remains frozen for 2 years or more, often much longer, sometimes thousands of years. In these regions, summer may soften the surface slightly, but below that thin, active layer, the ground stays cold, consistent, unmoving. Permafrost exists across the Arctic, beneath tundra, forests, mountains, and ancient plains. It does not look dramatic. There are no sharp edges, no sudden movements. It is simply there, holding its temperature, holding its contents, holding time itself. Within permafrost, organic material decomposes very slowly. Plants, roots, seeds, microorganisms, even traces of ancient animals can remain preserved, not frozen in a moment of panic, but gently paused, like a library, where nothing is rushed. Each layer of frozen soil records a different chapter of Earth's history. Dust from old winds, pollen from forests that no longer exist, carbon stored quietly, locked away from the atmosphere. Permafrost does not actively protect these things. It does not choose. It simply creates conditions where change slows down. Cold reduces activity. Stillness reduces decay. Time stretches. This idea alone can calm the mind. In daily life, everything feels accelerated. Messages arrive instantly. Decisions stack up. There is pressure to respond, to fix, to move forward. Permafrost offers a different perspective. Some things do not need immediate action. Some things benefit from being left undisturbed. Under frozen ground, nothing asks for attention. Nothing demands explanation. Everything is allowed to exist as it is. Even life forms within permafrost enter states of dormancy. Microbes slow their metabolism. Chemical reactions become rare. Energy is conserved. This is not death, it is waiting, a calm pause that can last longer than any human lifetime. When conditions eventually change, some of these organisms can become active again, not because they were forced, but because the environment gently allowed it. This teaches an important lesson. Rest is not failure. Stillness is not absence. Pausing does not erase potential, it preserves it. The human nervous system responds positively to this idea of being held, not pushed forward, not pulled apart, but supported from beneath. As you listen, you may imagine yourself lying on solid, frozen ground, not cold in an uncomfortable way, but stable, reliable. Nothing beneath you shifts, nothing collapses. The surface may change with seasons, but the foundation remains steady. This sense of deep support can reduce unconscious tension. Muscles soften. When the brain feels safe, breathing becomes slower. When there is no need to stay alert. Permafrost does not react quickly. It does not respond to every fluctuation. It absorbs small changes without losing its structure. In this way, it acts as a buffer, a stabilizing presence. In a dynamic environment, you do not need to react to every thought that arises. Some thoughts can pass overhead, like weather above frozen ground. They do not penetrate deeply. They do not disturb what matters most. This is especially comforting for people carrying stress from work or life, deadlines, expectations, unfinished conversations. These pressures exist at the surface level. Permafrost reminds us that there is a deeper layer that remains untouched, a place within you, where time moves slowly, where nothing is urgently required, where you are already enough. Scientists study permafrost to understand Earth's climate history, but they also approach it carefully. Disturbing permafrost can release what has been stored. Carbon returns to the atmosphere. Microbes awaken. Change accelerates. This is not a warning, but an observation. Sometimes, what is preserved should be left undisturbed until conditions are right. This applies to emotions as well. You do not need to process everything before sleep. Some thoughts are better left frozen for the night. They will still be there tomorrow, unchanged, waiting patiently. As the night deepens, imagine the earth beneath you, layer upon layer, soil, ice, ancient roots, all held gently in place. Nothing rushing, nothing unraveling. The planet has carried this weight for thousands of years. Without strain, you do not need to carry everything all at once. You can rest, knowing that some systems are designed to hold things safely over long periods of time. Your body understands this instinctively. Heart rate slows. When there is no perceived threat, the mind drifts. When it no longer needs to scan for danger. Permafrost does not surprise the land. It is predictable, reliable. It stays cold because stability is what it does best. As you continue listening, your thoughts may become less defined. Images blur softly. Sentences stretch out and lose their urgency. This is not distraction. It is the beginning of rest. In the next section, we will explore how light interacts with ice and snow, how long polar nights create a different relationship with illumination. But for now, you can remain here, held, preserved, unrushed, like ancient life beneath frozen ground, safe in stillness, waiting without worry. After resting with the idea of permafrost, ground that holds time without urgency, we slowly move upward, from what is buried deep below to what floats and flows across the surface of the Earth. Here, we meet two forms of ice that often appear similar, yet behave in very different ways. Sea ice and glaciers. They share the same substance, frozen water, yet their relationship with movement, with time, and with the planet is not the same. Understanding this difference does not require effort. It can be felt gently, like noticing the difference between a slow breath and a steady heartbeat. Sea ice forms from ocean water. When the air grows cold enough, the surface of the sea begins to freeze. Salt is pushed out of the forming ice, leaving behind crystals that are lighter, more flexible, and less dense than solid freshwater ice. Because of this, sea ice floats. It drifts. It shifts with currents and winds. It is never truly fixed in place. Even when it appears still, it is quietly moving, turning, sliding, opening and closing thin cracks that quickly refreeze. Sea ice responds quickly to changes in temperature. It grows in winter. It retreats in summer. It breathes with the seasons. There is no sense of permanence here, and yet, this constant motion creates a kind of gentle stability. Sea ice acts as a lid between the ocean and the sky. It slows heat exchange. It softens waves. It reduces sound. Life beneath the ice experiences a quieter world. Light filters down in pale, shifting patterns. Movement above becomes muted. For marine life, sea ice is not a barrier. It is shelter. Algae grow on its underside. Small organisms gather there. Fish pass beneath. Without resistance, nothing is trapped. Nothing is pressed down. Sea ice offers protection without weight. This can feel comforting. When you think about your own life, some forms of protection do not need to be heavy. They do not need to be permanent. They simply need to be present when conditions require it. Now, gently, we shift our attention from the surface of the ocean to the land, to glaciers. Glaciers are born from snow that falls year after year, layer upon layer, until its own weight compresses it into ice. This ice does not float. It rests on land. It presses downward. Over time, glaciers become thick, dense, heavy. Some are several kilometers deep. Unlike sea ice, glaciers do not respond quickly. They do not grow or shrink overnight. They move slowly, sometimes only centimeters per day, sometimes less. From a human perspective, they appear motionless, but they are always flowing, like thick honey, creeping downhill under its own weight. This movement is silent. There are no waves, no splashes, just a gradual shift that reshapes mountains, valleys, and entire landscapes. Glaciers carry rocks within their ice. They grind against bedrock below. They carve deep paths that remain long after the ice has gone. This is not forceful destruction. It is persistent pressure, applied slowly enough to feel almost gentle. Glaciers remind us that change does not require speed. Some transformations only happen when time is allowed to stretch. Unlike sea ice, glaciers are not easily moved by wind. They are guided by gravity, by the shape of the land beneath them. They commit to a direction and follow it patiently. Sea ice adapts moment by moment. Glaciers commit over centuries. Neither approach is better. They simply serve different roles. This contrast can feel deeply reassuring because it shows that stillness does not have a single form. Some stillness floats. Some stillness presses downward. Some stillness moves quickly, and some almost not at all. You do not need to choose one way of resting. Your body understands both rhythms. At times, you may need flexibility, a light form of rest that adapts to changing demands. At other times, you may need depth, a heavy, grounding rest that holds you firmly in place. Both are natural, both are necessary. Sea ice and glaciers also differ in how they interact with sound. Sea ice dampens noise. Waves become whispers. Cracks echo briefly, then fade. Under ice-covered seas, the world becomes softer. Glaciers, on the other hand, hold sound within their mass. occasional creaks, low groans, deep internal adjustments that rarely reach the surface. These sounds are not warnings. They are reminders that even the most solid systems continue to adjust internally. This can help release tension. You do not need to be perfectly still inside to be resting. Subtle internal shifts are part of relaxation. As you listen, your thoughts may drift between these two forms of ice. You may imagine yourself floating gently, supported without effort, or grounded deeply, held firmly from below. Your nervous system will choose what it needs. There is no wrong option. Sea ice breaks apart and reforms repeatedly. Glaciers crack occasionally, creating crevasses that slowly widen. Neither process is sudden, neither is violent. They are slow responses to pressure and temperature, just like the human mind responds slowly when it feels safe. Stress accumulates when there is no time to settle. Release happens when change is allowed to be gradual. As you move closer to sleep, your thoughts may lose sharp edges. Details blur, categories soften. Sea ice and glaciers no longer need to be defined. They become sensations, floating, grounded, light, heavy, moving, holding. All of these states can coexist peacefully. In the same way, you do not need to resolve everything from your day. Some things can drift. Some things can rest deeply. Nothing needs immediate attention. The Earth manages these vast systems without urgency, without stress. It allows each form of ice to behave according to its nature. You can allow yourself the same permission. As this section gently fades, the focus will shift again, from movement and form to speed and how some glaciers can move faster than we expect, despite appearing still. But for now, you can remain here, between floating and grounding, between flexibility and depth, breathing slowly, supported in whatever way feels easiest to let go. After exploring the quiet contrast between sea ice and glaciers, between floating stillness and grounded weight, we can now rest our attention on a gentle truth. Some things that look motionless are quietly moving all the time. Glaciers belong to this category of silent travelers. From a distance, they appear unchanged. Day after day, year after year, a vast white surface, calm, unmoving, almost eternal. But beneath this calm appearance, a slow journey is always underway. Glaciers move, not suddenly, not violently, but steadily, patiently, without announcing themselves. This movement does not require observation to exist. It happens even when no one is watching. This idea alone can bring a sense of relief, because it reminds us that progress does not depend on constant attention. Some changes continue, even while we rest. Glacier movement begins deep at the base, where ice meets rock, where pressure becomes weight and weight becomes motion. As glaciers grow thick, the ice at the bottom experiences immense pressure. This pressure lowers the melting point of ice just slightly, enough to create a thin layer of water between the ice and the ground beneath. This water does not rush. It does not flood. It simply forms a quiet, slippery film, a natural lubrication, allowing the glacier to slide forward with almost no sound. This process is not dramatic. There are no splashes, no sudden collapses, just a gradual release of tension, a slow surrender to gravity. The glacier does not resist movement, it accepts it. This acceptance is what allows motion to continue without stress. In some places, glaciers move only a few centimeters each day. In others, they can travel several meters within 24 hours. faster than a person walking slowly. And yet, if you stood nearby, you might notice nothing at all. This contrast between speed and perception is deeply calming because it shows that not all movement needs to feel fast to be meaningful. Your own life may be changing in similar ways, quietly, without dramatic signals. Even when days feel repetitive, something within you is still adjusting, still moving forward. Glaciers also move by internal deformation. Ice is not perfectly rigid. Over long periods, it behaves like a very slow fluid. Under pressure, ice crystals shift. They realign. They slide past one another. This internal movement happens without cracks, without breaks, just a gradual reshaping from within. You can think of this as flexibility hidden inside strength, a reminder that being solid does not require being stiff. Even the most massive glaciers depend on small adjustments to continue their journey. As glaciers move, they stretch. When the surface ice cannot stretch enough, it fractures gently. This creates crevasses, deep cracks that open slowly, often hidden beneath snow. These openings are not signs of failure. They are signs that movement is happening, that stress is being released rather than stored. Crevasses form without warning sounds. No alarms, no sharp signals, just quiet separation, followed by stillness again. The landscape adjusts, then rests. This pattern is important. Movement, release, rest. It mirrors how the nervous system naturally unwinds. When it feels safe, stress builds slowly. Release happens when pressure finds an outlet, then calm returns. Glaciers do not rush this process. They allow it to unfold. Over time, even when glaciers accelerate, they do so without panic. Seasonal changes can increase meltwater at the base. This can temporarily speed up movement, but once conditions shift, the glacier slows again. There is no urgency to maintain speed, only responsiveness. This adaptability is a quiet strength. It allows glaciers to survive for thousands of years. They adjust to change without resisting it, without overreacting. This can feel reassuring. As you prepare for sleep, you do not need to control your thoughts, to rest. You only need to allow them to slow naturally, just as glacier do. Glacier movement also reshapes the land beneath. Rock is ground down, sediment is carried forward, valleys are widened, but this shaping is almost imperceptible. In the moment, the earth does not feel pain. From this contact, it responds gradually, accepting the slow pressure. Over time, entire landscapes are transformed, without shock, without trauma, only patience. This reminds us that gentle forces, applied consistently, can create lasting change. Force does not need to be intense to be effective. As you lie listening, your body may be entering a similar state. Muscles soften, breathing slows, thoughts become less defined. You are not stopping. You are transitioning. Just like the glacier, you are still moving toward rest, even if it feels like nothing is happening. Movement does not always announce itself. Sometimes it works best when unnoticed. Glaciers continue their journey through darkness, through storms, through long periods of quiet. They do not depend on light. They do not depend on observation. Their movement is reliable because it is not rushed. This reliability is comforting. You can trust that sleep will come in the same way, not forced, not chased, but allowed. The slow movement of glaciers also teaches us about time perception. What feels long to us is brief to the earth. What feels still to us is active on a deeper scale. This shift in perspective can soften anxiety because it reduces urgency. Nothing needs to be resolved tonight. Nothing needs to be completed. The earth will continue moving. Your body will continue regulating, even while you rest. As this section gently settles, your attention can remain on the idea of quiet motion, of progress without pressure, of change without effort. The next part will move even deeper into light and reflection, into how snow interacts with sunlight, and how brightness itself can create calm. But for now, you can remain here, drifting, sliding gently forward, like a glacier, traveling through time, without sound, without urgency, supported by forces that do not need your attention to work. After learning that glaciers can move quietly through time, traveling without sound or urgency, we can now let our attention rise gently to the surface, to something lighter, softer, something that does not travel far, but changes everything it touches. Fresh snow. Newly fallen snow is one of the most reflective surfaces on Earth. Almost all incoming sunlight is sent back into the sky, not absorbed, not held, simply returned. This reflection is called albedo, but you do not need the term to feel its effect. You feel it as cool air on your skin, as a gentle brightness that does not warm, as a sense of space that feels clean and open. Fresh snow does not trap heat. It releases it. By reflecting sunlight away, snow keeps the ground beneath cool and stable. Temperatures remain balanced. Extremes soften. Sharp changes slow down. This creates a quiet environment where systems can rest. Plants beneath snow remain insulated. Soil stays protected. Seeds wait patiently. Snow becomes a soft shield, not heavy, not oppressive, just present. This is why winter landscapes often feel calm rather than harsh. Snow reflects light without reflecting noise. Sound is absorbed by its soft, irregular surface. Footsteps become muted. Distances feel shorter. The world seems closer, more contained, more manageable. This sensory quiet can have a powerful effect on the nervous system. Your body responds to reduced stimulation by slowing down. Heart rate eases. Breathing becomes deeper. Thoughts lose their sharp edges. Fresh snow also changes how we perceive brightness. Unlike artificial light, snow-reflected light is diffuse. It comes from everywhere, but with no single source. There are no harsh contrasts, no glaring points, just an even glow. This kind of light does not demand attention. It allows the eyes to relax. And when the eyes rest, the mind often follows. In nature, reflection can be calming when it is gentle. Snow mirrors the sky, but it does not copy it exactly. Clouds become softer. Colors fade into pale blues and quiet whites. Edges blur. Nothing insists on being noticed. As snow ages, its surface begins to change. Crystals lose their sharp geometry. Air pockets collapse. Particles of dust slowly accumulate. The mirror becomes less perfect. More light is absorbed. The ground warms slightly. Change returns. But gradually, this transition is never abrupt. Fresh snow does not disappear suddenly. It transforms, slowly releasing the energy it once reflected. This cycle of reflection and release is deeply rhythmic. It mirrors how rest works in the body. At first, you pull away from stimulation. You reflect it outward. Later, you gently re-engage, only when ready. Snow also affects air movement. Cold air settles. Warmer air rises. The atmosphere becomes layered, stable, predictable. Winds slow, weather patterns smooth out. This stability can last for days or weeks, long enough for ecosystems to recalibrate, long enough for the Earth to pause. When you imagine a snow-covered landscape, your mind often mirrors this pause. Urgency fades. Mental noise softens. Problems feel less immediate, not solved, just quieter. Fresh snow does not erase what lies beneath. It covers it, protects it, allows it to rest. This can feel comforting. You do not need to resolve everything before sleeping. You can let snow cover unfinished thoughts. They will still be there tomorrow, rested, unchanged. Snow's reflective quality also plays a role in global balance. By sending sunlight back into space, snow helps regulate the Earth's temperature. It prevents overheating. It creates feedback loops that stabilize climate patterns. Small crystals producing large effects. This reminds us that softness does not mean weakness. Gentle systems can be powerful precisely because they do not force change. As you listen, you might imagine lying beneath a pale winter sky, light drifting down, not snowflakes falling quickly, but the afterlight that remains once snow has settled. The world feels open but not exposed, bright but not warm, clear but not demanding. Your breathing can mirror this clarity. Cool air in, warm air out. No need to deepen it, no need to slow it. It will find its own rhythm. Snow teaches us that reflection can be restful, that returning energy to its source can create balance. That brightness does not always awaken. Sometimes it soothes. As this section gently fades, the next part will move deeper into memory, into ice cores, and the quiet record of ancient atmospheres. But for now, you can remain in this reflected light, cool, soft, even, letting the day's heat and pressure be sent gently away, like sunlight bouncing off fresh snow, leaving behind a calm surface, ready to rest. After the brightness of fresh snow, after the light that reflects gently back into the sky, we can now move inward, deeper, quieter, from the surface of the Earth down into its memory. Ice cores are not about motion, they are about listening. Deep beneath polar ice sheets and ancient glaciers, layers of snow have slowly compressed into solid ice. Year after year, century after century, millennium after millennium, each layer pressing softly on the one below, not violently, not suddenly, just patiently. As snow becomes ice, tiny pockets of air become sealed inside, small bubbles, invisible from a distance, each one holding a breath from another time. This air is not symbolic, it is real, the same atmosphere that once moved across ancient forests, over early oceans, above landscapes long changed. Carbon dioxide, methane, nitrogen, oxygen, traces of volcanic ash, dust from distant deserts, all preserved, not frozen as an object, but frozen as a moment. When scientists extract ice cores, they are not digging for artifacts, they are listening for echoes. By measuring the gases inside these tiny bubbles, we can learn what the air was like tens of thousands of years ago, what it contained, how warm it was, how stable it felt. Ice cores become a slow conversation between the present and the deep past. But you do not need the instruments or the numbers to feel the comfort of this idea. There is something calming about knowing that the Earth remembers how to breathe, that even as landscapes change, the rhythm of atmosphere continues in layers, in cycles. Ice cores show us that the planet has experienced many states: colder, warmer, stormier, calmer, and through it all, life adapted. Systems adjusted, balance returned, again and again, over long stretches of time. This perspective can soften modern worries. Stress often feels intense because it feels immediate. Ice cores remind us that time is wider than urgency. A single human lifetime is thinner than one visible layer in an ice core, and yet that lifetime still matters. It simply does not need to carry the weight of the entire system. As you imagine these layers of ice, you might picture them stacked gently. Each year, a soft addition. No judgment, no correction, just accumulation, much like the days of your own life. Some clear, some cloudy, some heavier than others, all becoming part of a larger whole. Inside the ice, air remains unchanged for thousands of years, protected from sunlight, from wind, from disturbance. This stillness allows the past to stay intact. There is a quiet reassurance. In that protection, a sense that nothing is truly lost, only stored, waiting for the right moment to be understood. Ice cores also contain markers of sudden events: volcanic eruptions, wildfires, massive storms. Even these moments are preserved without drama. No alarms, no emphasis, just thin, darker layers within the ice. Evidence that disruption can exist without defining the entire story. This can feel comforting for a tired mind. Stressful days do not overwrite everything else. They become one layer among many, not erased, but also not dominant. When scientists analyze ice cores, they work slowly, carefully, respectfully, because rushing would destroy the very information they seek. This slowness is essential, and it mirrors the pace required. For rest, sleep does not respond to force. It responds to permission. Ice cores invite us to slow down enough to listen, to trust that important things do not vanish. When we stop paying attention, they remain held safely. As the Earth's memory warms slightly, when brought to the surface, the trapped air is released. Not explosively, just gently escaping. A quiet exhale from another age. You might imagine that same softness in your own breathing, not controlled, not adjusted, just allowed. Air entering, air leaving, nothing else required. Ice cores teach us that warmth can come after cold without conflict. That transition does not have to be abrupt, that systems can change states smoothly. This is why this part of the journey feels warmer, not physically, but emotionally. The cold has done its work. Now comes understanding, integration, rest. As you lie still, you may picture your thoughts settling into layers, not fighting for attention, not needing resolution, just stacking gently like snowfall, turning slowly into ice. Protected, preserved, safe. The atmosphere you breathe now is different from the one inside the ice, but it is part of the same continuum, the same cycle. Nothing separate, nothing isolated. This continuity can ease the feeling of being alone with your thoughts. You are breathing the present moment, connected quietly to countless moments before it and countless moments yet to come. As this section begins to drift toward its close, there is no need to remember details, no need to hold on to facts. The value is not in information, but in feeling, a sense of warmth emerging from depth, a calm confidence. That time is not rushing you, that the earth itself moves slowly enough to carry memory without strain. You can let that steadiness support you now. Let your breathing align with something older and more patient than stress. The next and final part will gently widen the view again, returning to the surface, to cycles, and to rest. But for now, you can remain here, in this quiet exchange between past and present, breathing easily, held softly, warm enough, as if the cold has already passed and only calm remains, layered gently inside you, like ancient air, resting safely within the ice. After listening to the breath held inside ancient ice, after feeling the warmth that slowly returned from deep time, we can now let the journey gently come to rest. Ice and snow do not disappear. They never truly sleep. They simply change form. What was once falling snow becomes packed ice. What was once solid ice becomes flowing water. What was once still moves quietly into another state. Nothing ends. Nothing is lost. It all continues, in cycles so slow they feel almost invisible. This is the final comfort of the frozen world. Not silence, but continuity. Not emptiness, but presence without urgency. Ice sheets shift, even when no one is watching. Snow melts, then returns as clouds. Water travels to the sea, then rises again into the sky. The earth does not rush these transitions. It allows them. And now, you are allowed to do the same. Throughout this journey, you may have noticed how little effort the natural world uses to remain in balance. Ice does not try to hold its shape forever. Snow does not resist the warmth of the sun. Frozen ground slowly loosens, then settles again. Each state is temporary, and that is what makes it stable. This perspective can soften the tension we carry in daily life. Stress often comes from trying to stay fixed, trying to control outcomes, trying to remain solid. When change is already underway, ice and snow offer another approach. They teach us that strength can exist alongside flexibility, that rest is not the opposite of movement, but part of its rhythm. As your body lies still, you do not need to follow the story anymore. There is nothing left to understand, nothing left to remember. The forest of ice, the slow glaciers, the quiet snowfalls, they will continue without your attention. You are not required to stay awake, to keep the world running. That work is already being done. The planet breathes, water circulates, temperature adjusts, balance returns, all without effort from you. This realization can feel like a soft release, a gentle permission to let go, to loosen the muscles you forgot were tense, to stop holding the weight of the day. As ice transforms without resistance, you can allow your thoughts to transform as well. They do not need to be solved. They do not need to be organized. They can melt quietly into the background, like snow dissolving into water beneath the surface, still present, still part of the system, just no longer demanding attention. The cold imagery of ice and snow may now feel distant, not because it vanished, but because it did its work. It slowed the pace, lowered the noise, expanded your sense of time. Now, only the calm remains, a steady, neutral space, where the mind does not need to move quickly. Sleep often arrives, not when we seek it, but when we stop asking for it. Ice does not decide when to melt. Snow does not schedule its return. These processes happen when conditions are ready. Your rest works the same way. If sleep is already coming, there is nothing you need to do. If it is still approaching, there is no problem. The video will continue. The sound will remain, The night is long and patient. You are safe inside it. Ice and snow have shown us how the earth handles pressure by distributing it, by spreading it over time, by allowing change. Instead of resisting it, you can borrow this strategy now. Let today become just one layer, not heavy, not defining, simply placed, gently, among many others. Tomorrow does not need your preparation tonight. It will arrive, whether you plan for it or not. For now, your only task is rest, and even that does not require effort, just presence, just stillness, just allowing. As the final moments of this journey pass, the imagery can fade, the words can soften. You do not need to listen actively. You do not need to stay aware. Ice and snow will continue their cycles. Whether you are awake or asleep, the earth does not pause. When you close your eyes, it simply carries on, quietly, reliably, patiently. If you are already drifting, you can let the sound become part of the background. If you are still awake, there is no urgency. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. At the end of this long, slow journey through ice and snow, there is nothing dramatic waiting for you. Only rest, only calm, only the steady continuation of a world that knows how to take care of itself. And that same steadiness can take care of you tonight. Before the sound fades further, there is just one gentle reminder. If these quiet journeys help your mind feel lighter, if they help your body release the day, you are always welcome to return. You may choose to stay connected with this space, not out of obligation, but out of comfort. New stories will arrive, just as snow returns, after it melts. But for now, there is nothing more to do. The night is wide, the rhythm is slow. Ice and snow continue their endless cycle, and you, without trying, without effort, are free to rest. As this journey slowly fades, the ice and snow continue their quiet work. They breathe, they shift, they remember time, so you don't have to. If your mind feels a little lighter tonight, if your body feels more at ease, you're already exactly where you need to be. You don't need to stay awake now. The night is long, the world is steady, and before you drift deeper, there is just one soft thought to leave behind. If these calm science stories help you rest, you can gently show your support by leaving a quiet comment below, even just one word or one symbol to let us know you're here. You can also subscribe, so these peaceful journeys are always waiting for you. On nights when sleep feels far away, there's no rush. You can do it now or another time. The forest, the ice, the universe, they will all be here again. For now, let your breathing slow, let the sound fade into the background, and allow sleep to arrive in its own time. Good night, and rest gently.